April 29, 1945. A narrow, mud-choked road somewhere west of the Elbe River. The air is thick with the smell of pine sap, diesel fumes, and the metallic tang of distant, exhausted violence. For Ilse Schmidt, a 21-year-old Nachrichtenhelferin, a signals auxiliary for the Wehrmacht, the world has shrunk to the rhythmic squelch of her boots in the mire. Each step is a monumental effort. Rain, a cold, persistent drizzle, has been falling for 3 days, plastering strands of blonde hair to her cheeks and soaking the collar of her gray wool uniform. Around her, the remnants of the Ninth Army disintegrate. They are no longer an army, but a wraith, a ragged column of ghosts shuffling west. Old men from the Volkssturm, their eyes hollowed out by fear, clutch rifles they barely know how to use. Wounded soldiers, their bandages stained brown with mud and old blood, lean on comrades who are only marginally stronger. And there are women like Ilse, the auxiliaries, the gray mice of the communication hubs, now just as lost and hunted as the frontline infantry. The sound begins as a low growl, a vibration felt more in the teeth than heard with the ears. It is a sound they have learned to dread. Not the familiar clatter of a Panzer IV or the high-pitched whine of a half-track. This is deeper, more menacing. An Oberleutnant, his face a mask of grime and exhaustion, holds up a hand. The column halts, a collective sigh of weary bodies. Men slump against the wet trunks of pine trees, their breath misting in the frigid air. You can see the tension in their shoulders, the way their heads cock, listening. Ilse presses herself against the side of a disabled Opel Blitz truck, its canvas cover shredded by shrapnel. She clutches the strap of her leather map case, the empty container a useless relic, a life of switchboards and coded messages that existed only a week ago. The growl intensifies, resolving into the distinct mechanical signature of heavy armor, American armor. The rumor had spread like wildfire through the column. The Americans are just ahead. Surrender to them. For God's sake, don't let the Russians take you. The Oberleutnant draws his Walther P-38, not with aggression, but with a sense of finality. He looks at his men, his boys, and a flicker of something, pity perhaps, crosses his face. Weggeworfen, he mutters to no one in particular. Thrown away. A soldier nearby, a boy no older than 17, begins to sob quietly, his shoulders shaking. Ilse watches, her heart a cold, hard knot in her chest. She thinks of her mother in Dresden, of the last letter she received, filled with mundane details of rationing and neighborhood gossip that now seem like a message from a different planet. Then it appears, nosing through the trees, a behemoth of olive-drab steel. An M4 Sherman tank, its long 76mm cannon swiveling slowly, an impassive eye searching for a target. The white star painted on its turret is a symbol of a power so vast, so industrial and confident, that it makes their worn-out uniforms and desperate retreat feel utterly pathetic. Behind it, figures emerge from the woods, GIs. They move with a casual purpose, their M1 Garands held at the ready. They are not starving, they are not exhausted. Their uniforms are muddy, but intact. They are an occupying force, and the war, for everyone on this road, is now over. The Oberleutnant slowly raises his pistol and places it on the muddy ground. He then unbuckles his belt and lets it fall. One by one, others do the same. Rifles are dropped with a clatter, helmets tossed aside. A single white handkerchief, a piece of a soldier's undershirt, is tied to a stick and raised high. The silence that follows is deafening, broken only by the steady idling of the Sherman's engine and the ceaseless patter of the rain. An American officer, a captain with a square jaw and tired eyes, approaches. He gestures with his carbine. On your feet, form a line. His German is crude, heavily accented, but the meaning is unmistakable. Ilse gets to her feet, her legs trembling. She stands with the other women, a small cluster of gray in a sea of field gray. The American soldiers look at them, their expressions a mixture of curiosity and contempt. One of them, a young sergeant, spits a wad of tobacco juice near her boots. "What do we do with these?" he asks his captain. The captain gives the women a long, appraising look. "They're prisoners, same as the rest. Get them on the trucks." Ilsa feels a strange, hollow relief. They are not being shot. They are not being handed to the Soviets. They are prisoners. For now, that is enough. As she is herded towards a GMC Deuce and a half, its canvas canopy dark with rain, she looks back one last time at the forest, at the abandoned road that was supposed to lead home. The gate of the truck slams shut, plunging them into a cramped, smelling darkness. The engine roars to life, and with a lurch, they are carried away from the war and into the unknown. The journey lasts for what feels like days. Cramped in the back of the truck, the prisoners are a miserable heap of humanity. The stench of unwashed bodies, wet wool, and fear is overpowering. They are given nothing to eat, and only once does the truck stop long enough for them to scoop handfuls of brackish water from a roadside ditch. Ilsa sits beside a woman named Gerda, a nurse from a field hospital whose uniform is still stained with blood. They don't speak. There is nothing to say. The world outside the canvas flap is a blur of ruined villages and alien road signs in English. Finally, the truck rumbles to a halt. The tailgate drops with a crash, and harsh daylight floods their eyes. "Raus! Everybody out! Schnell!" The guards are shouting, prodding them with their rifle butts. Ilsa stumbles out into a vast, open field ringed with barbed wire. Watchtowers stand like skeletal sentinels at each corner. This is Rheinwiesenlager, one of the massive, hastily constructed prisoner of war temporary enclosures. The word temporary feels like a cruel joke. The ground is a sea of mud, churned by thousands of feet. As far as the eye can see, there are men, huddled masses of gray uniforms sitting in the open, exposed to the relentless rain. There are no barracks, no shelters, only the indifferent sky. The processing begins. It is a systematic stripping away of identity. They are divided into groups, men and women separated. Ilsa finds herself in a line with about 50 other female auxiliaries and nurses. They are marched towards a series of tents. The first tent is for delousing. A bored-looking GI with a pressurized canister directs them to hold out their arms as he sprays them with a cloud of white DDT powder. The chemical stings their nostrils and coats their hair and clothes. It's humiliating, a reduction to the level of vermin. In the next tent, their belongings are confiscated. A corporal sits at a wooden table, impassively sorting through their few possessions. Ilsa has to surrender her map case, a small book of Rilke's poetry, and a photograph of her family, faded and creased. "No personal items," the corporal grunts, tossing them into a large crate already overflowing with the detritus of other lives. He hands her a small cardboard tag with a number printed on it, 734-881. This is her new name. The final tent is for interrogation. She sits on a stool opposite a young American officer, a lieutenant from G2 intelligence. He has a clean-shaven face and horn-rimmed glasses, and he looks at her not as a person, but a problem to be solved. He asks questions in fluent, academic German. Name, rank, unit. What was your function? Did you have access to Enigma traffic? Do you know the location of any command staff? Ilsa answers truthfully, her voice barely a whisper. Ilsa Schmidt, Nachrichtenhelferin. I worked a telephone switchboard at a regional communications depot near Magdeburg. The lieutenant's pen scratches across a form. He seems unimpressed. You were a member of the Wehrmacht, he states flatly. No, Ilsa insists, a spark of defiance lighting in her chest. I was an auxiliary, a civilian employee. I am not a soldier. I just want to go home. The lieutenant looks up from his papers, his eyes cold and clinical. Fräulein, you wore the uniform. You drew pay from the German military. You performed a function essential to their war effort. According to the Articles of the Geneva Convention, you are a prisoner of war. Next. She is dismissed. Her plea, her distinction between soldier and auxiliary, means nothing. To them, she is just another cog in the machine they have just smashed. She and the other women are herded into a separate, smaller enclosure within the larger camp. Here, at least, there are a few large tents to shelter them from the rain. Inside, it is crowded and damp. Women are crammed together on the muddy ground, their faces etched with shock and despair. Rumors circulate in hushed tones. They are sending us to America. No, to England, to work on the farms. My cousin said they release women first. We will be home in 2 weeks. Hope, fragile and desperate, flickers in the gloom. Gerda, the nurse, finds Ilsa and sits beside her. They can't keep us here, she says, her voice trying to be firm. The war is almost over. They need to send people home to rebuild. It is only logical. Ilsa looks at the barbed wire, at the guards in the towers, at the endless sea of prisoners beyond their small compound. She sees the cold, methodical efficiency of the processing, the numbered tags, the forms being filled out in triplicate. This is not about logic. It is about logistics. It is the vast, impersonal machinery of a victorious army sorting through the human wreckage of its defeated enemy. And they are caught in its gears. That night, for the first time, the full weight of her situation presses down on her. Home is not a destination she is traveling towards. It is a memory, and with every passing hour in this muddy field, it feels further and further away. Days bleed into weeks. The temporary enclosure at Rheinwiesen becomes a more structured prison. The women are moved from the muddy fields of the initial camp to a section with wooden barracks at a sub-camp designated PWT-A14 near Bad Kreuznach. The structures are crude, hastily assembled, but they have roofs and bunk beds stacked 3 high. It is a significant improvement, a small mercy that only serves to underscore the permanence of their situation. A routine, monotonous, and soul-crushing takes hold. Life is measured by the clang of a bell. Wake up at dawn for Appell, the morning roll call. They stand in neat rows as American guards count them, their faces impassive. Then comes breakfast. A mug of ersatz coffee, thin and bitter, and a slice of dense black bread. The rest of the day stretches out into a vast emptiness. There is no work to do, no purpose to fill the hours. They mend their worn uniforms, wash their clothes in cold water, and talk. They talk endlessly. They talk about home, about the families they left behind, about the food they miss, about the lives they once had. They trade stories like currency, each memory a precious jewel, polished and examined until its facets gleam in the dreary confines of the barrack. Ilse shares a bunk with Gerda and a sharp-tongued woman named Anka, who had been a Luftwaffe signals plotter. Anka is a cynic. Hope is a ration they don't issue here, she is fond of saying. Why would they let us go? We're free labor waiting to be used. Gerda, ever the optimist, counters her. It is inefficient to keep us. They have millions of prisoners. They have to start releasing people. They will start with the women. It's only a matter of time. Ilse finds herself caught between these two poles. She clings to Gerda's optimism, but Anka's bitter realism echoes the cold logic of the interrogation tent. The camp is a microcosm of German society, with its own hierarchies and factions. The nurses stick together, the signals auxiliaries form their own group, the administrative clerks another. Tensions sometimes simmer over a stolen piece of bread or a perceived slight, but mostly there is a shared sense of solidarity born of their common fate. They sing old folk songs in the evenings, the melodies tinged with a profound sorrow, a yearning for a Germany that may no longer exist. The desire to go home is not a gentle ache. It is a physical, all-consuming need. It is a fever that spikes with every rumor and recedes into a cold sweat of despair with every disappointment. Every day, they watch the camp gates. They watch the American jeeps and trucks come and go, searching for any sign, any change in the routine that might signal their release. One afternoon, Ilse sees the camp commandant, a Major Davis, inspecting the fence line. He is an older man with gray at his temples and an air of weary responsibility. Spurred by a sudden, desperate courage, Ilse, with Gerda at her side, approaches him. 2 guards immediately move to block their path, but the major waves them off. "What is it?" he asks, his German functional but curt. Ilse's voice trembles as she speaks. "Sir, Major, we wish to ask when we might be repatriated. We are non-combatants. Our families do not know if we are alive or dead. Our homes—" Her voice breaks. Gerda steps in, her tone more measured. Major, we understand the complexities, but the war is ending. We want to go home and help rebuild. We can be of more use there than here. Major Davis listens, his expression unreadable. He has heard this 100 times. You can see it in his eyes. He is not a monster. He is a bureaucrat, a cog in a machine far larger than this single camp. I understand your concerns, he says, but your status is determined by SHAFE, Supreme Headquarters Allied Expeditionary Force. There are procedures, screening for Nazi party affiliations, logistical priorities. There are millions of displaced persons all over Europe. Roads and railways are destroyed. It's not a simple matter of just opening the gates. He looks at them, a flicker of something almost like sympathy in his eyes. You have food, you have shelter, you are safe. For now, that has to be enough. Be patient. He turns and walks away, his entourage following. The guards nudge them back towards their barracks. Ilsa stands frozen, the major's words echoing in her mind. Procedures, logistics, SHAFE. They are abstract, impersonal words that form the bars of their cage. Be patient. How can you be patient when every fiber of your being screams to go home? That night, the news spreads through the camp like electricity. Whispers in the darkness passed from bunk to bunk. The radio in the guards' quarters was turned up loud. Unconditional surrender. The war in Europe is over. A wave of delirious joy washes through the barracks. They hug each other, crying and laughing. This is it. This is the moment. The war is over. The procedures are finished. Tomorrow, the gates must open. Tomorrow, they will finally go home. The morning of May 9th, 1945, dawns bright and clear. A sense of giddy anticipation electrifies the air in Barrack C. The women wake early, chattering excitedly, smoothing their worn uniforms, trying to make themselves look presentable for their imminent release. They pack their few meager possessions, tying them into small bundles. The bell rings for appel, and they march out into the compound, their steps lighter than they have been in weeks. They line up for the count, their eyes fixed on the main gate, expecting to see a line of trucks, an officer with a list of names. But nothing happens. The roll call proceeds as usual. The guards are perhaps a little more relaxed, some even smiling, but the routine is unchanged. Breakfast is the same watery coffee, the same slice of black bread. The gate remains shut. Hour by hour, the hopeful energy begins to drain away, replaced by a confused, gnawing anxiety. By midday, a heavy silence has fallen over the barrack. The small bundles lie unpacked at the foot of their bunks. The crushing reality begins to sink in. For them, nothing has changed. Peace for the world has not meant freedom for them. The psychological toll is immediate and severe. The shared hope that had buoyed them is gone, and in its place, a profound and bitter disillusionment takes root. Arguments erupt over trivial things. Women who had been friends now snap at each other. Others withdraw completely, staring at the walls for hours, lost in a despair so deep it is terrifying to witness. Anke's cynicism now seems like prophecy. What did you expect, she sneers, pacing the length of the barrack. A parade? A band? We are the spoils of war. They will dispose of us when it is convenient, not a moment before. Gerda tries to keep morale up, organizing singing groups and storytelling circles, but her efforts feel forced, her optimism hollow. The camp administration, far from preparing for releases, seems to be digging in for a long occupation. New layers of barbed wire are added to the perimeter fence. More guards arrive. The camp, which once felt like a transit point, now feels like a permanent institution. Then, the mail begins to arrive. It is the first tangible link to the outside world, and its arrival is met with a frantic, desperate hope. The letters are heavily censored, with entire lines blacked out by the Allied censors, but fragments of their old lives slip through. Ilsa receives a Red Cross post